Bienvenue, Annie, welcome. This episode, as the title suggests, is an exploration of the main characters for the story we are making. But first, a small update. The question of who this story will be for has been answered. Since I said in the last World Builders video that this would have an impact on the characters, and indeed all aspects of the story process, I will talk about it briefly now in the context of the character decisions that will be made, and then in the next video go into more depth. Recently, while looking through my Google Docs for something unrelated, I stumbled across an old file where I had begun collecting a list of words for use in a story that specifically targeted a speech and language goal. My sister is a communicative disorders assistant, and as such, she spends a lot of time in thrift stores looking for children's books that are both interesting enough for her to read hundreds of times with multiple clients and full of vocabulary that is useful for the goals those clients are trying to reach. Several years ago, we had discussed in passing the idea of collaborating to write a story tailored to those needs. Having been reminded of this project idea and now finding myself with a cast of characters suited for the part, the gears in my head began turning at speed. So, the answer to the question, who is this story for, is children working on reading and language goals. So, what does this mean for our characters? In short, their goals and motivations will be geared towards children and presented in ways that children can understand. With that settled, it's time to go to the bulletin board. First things first, what do we know? We have Button, Bobbin, Leaf, Moss, and Thimble. We know that Button and Bobbin are siblings, and that Leaf and Moss are siblings, so I'll connect them with Graystring to show they are family members. Leaf is friends with Button and Bobbin, and Thimble is friends with Moss, so I'll connect them with Orangestring. Now, I won't clearly define their ages, but I will mark their age order from oldest to youngest. Moss, Thimble, Bobbin, Leaf, Button. Next, I looked through the scripts of their videos and pulled out any traits I had already decided. This is why notes are a very useful tool. I never would have been able to remember if it hadn't been recorded somewhere, and then I would have had to take time making those decisions again. Button was described as childish, adventurous, but with no adventuring experience, impractical, and timid. Bobbin was practical, prepared, or at least she thinks she is, and confident. Leaf was rambunctious, outdoorsy, a contrast to Bobbin, in other words, impulsive, curious, playful, and not afraid to get dirty. Moss was tired, maybe irritated, unambitious, and still figuring himself out. Thimble was playful, whimsical, and comfortable being herself. Now let's take those scattered traits and boil each character down to find their core. Although, as I mentioned in the Zinnia video, people are never just one thing, finding your character's core can act like a story compass. If you know which direction your character's compass points, it's easier to keep that character consistent because it gives you a point of reference. When you drop that character into a new situation, you can ask yourself if they will react in character or out of character. If they react out of character, ask yourself why. Does it bother them? Do the other characters notice? Was it a one-time thing or part of a bigger character development arc they're on? Button, in a nutshell, is a kid. He wants to learn about the world, but he's unprepared and inexperienced. When everything is new, that can be scary. So for him, both approaching a new situation with curiosity and approaching it with fear would be in character. Like a kid, he goes out into the world confident in his knowledge of it, but becomes uncertain when he reaches the border of that knowledge. His sense of confidence to keep moving forward past that border would be fueled by the people around him and his trust that even if he doesn't know what's going on, they do. Boiled down, he's cautiously curious. He's eager to learn, but unlikely to dive in head first. Bobbin is in the stage where she thinks she has it all figured out. Because of this, if something comes up that she wasn't expecting, she might find that difficult. But with her practical thinking, she would also be able to take a step back and use the knowledge she does have to figure out what to do. Boiled down, she is practical and confident. She's not afraid of facing new things because she's certain she'll be able to understand them. Leaf is also confident, but in a different way. His confidence stems from inexperience and a lack of caution. He doesn't know enough about the world to see the consequences coming. He is not afraid of new things and does dive in headfirst. Boiled down, he is impulsively curious. Reacting in character for him would be to run headlong into whatever situation presents itself. Moss is sensitive, thoughtful, quiet. He probably spends too much time in his own head, analyzing himself and the world around him. He's reached the stage where he's beginning to develop opinions on the way the world works, but they are far from fully formed. He may seem disengaged or like he doesn't care, but there's more going on inside than he dares say out loud. He also takes the responsibility of looking after his brother seriously. Boiled down, he is thoughtful, both in the sense of caring and in the sense of full of thoughts, and uncertain. He's likely to take an initial pessimistic view when presented with a new situation, but is willing to go along with the plans of the more confident members of the group. Thimble, on the other hand, has decided exactly who she wants to be. She doesn't worry about what other people think of her, and because of that, she feels free to be as weird as she wants. She knows that she doesn't know everything, but sees that as an exciting learning opportunity rather than a cause for concern. Boiled down, she is comfortably confident. She takes each new situation as it comes, secure in the knowledge that if she can't figure it out, she can always ask for help. The group is united by their shared goal of learning about their world, learning about each other, and learning about themselves. And now that we've learned more about them, we can start to imagine the kind of adventures they'll get themselves into. But first, we're going to do an exploration of what kind of story structures will best serve the audience I've chosen. As always, I hope you'll come along for the ride with me.